Hello, my name is Karen Bartholomew. I'm Deputy Head of School for Midwifery and Advanced Practice at Anglia Ruskin University, and this is Catherine. Catherine, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Catherine. I'm a second year midwifery student at ARU in Cambridge, and my placement area is at Addenbrooke's Hospital.
This video aims to give you information about the interview process with hints and tips about how to prepare for the interview. In midwifery, we interview all prospective candidates because it is a professional requirement of the NMC. The NMC are the Nursing and Midwifery Council. They are our regulatory body. But it's really important for us to get to know you, to understand why you want to be a midwife, and to assess your values and personal qualities. It's also your chance to find out a bit about ARU. Catherine, when you came for your interview, did you find anything out about the university?
So when I came for the interview at the very beginning, they gave us a rundown of what is included in the course, throughout all the different years, throughout the 3-year course. So I found out that you got to do some extra qualifications that were at the time weren't available elsewhere, like the NIPE exam, the newborn examination. I also got a tour of the college itself, so I got to see all of the classrooms and the skills classrooms where it basically looked like a hospital bay with all the different equipment, and the sim mum, which is a simulation model that we can practice procedures on. And it was just a lovely atmosphere and with the lovely people and the lovely students I got to meet.
Thank you. One of the really important key drivers behind midwifery practice is the NHS 6 Cs. So if you go onto Google and Google the 6 Cs, it will give you a list of them. They are care, compassion, competence, communication, courage, and commitment. And during the interview process, we will ask you questions which will help us to assess those skills. What it's really important for you to do is to think about your transferable skills and how you can demonstrate the 6 Cs through your transferable skills. For instance, care. If you are already working in a hospital setting or a care home, demonstrating care will be really easy for you. But if you are an 18-year-old school leaver, it might be slightly more difficult. So you have to think inventively. So if you're still at school, how can you demonstrate care? Well, it may be that you've done some volunteering with a young people's group or with older people, and that would be a way for you to demonstrate care. Communication is also very important, so the way that you communicate with us during the interview. So if you're perhaps a bit shy, go and practice your communication, go and talk to people. Catherine, how did you demonstrate the 6 Cs during your interview?
During my interview, I talked about my care and compassion. I worked as a nanny previously before coming to the course, so I demonstrated it through my care, and that demonstrated my care and compassion for others. My competence, I knew I could take on tasks and try and learn as much as possible. And my communication skills, I've worked many different jobs in my life, and all of them demanded that I have good communication with both the people that I worked with and the people I was looking after and the people that came as customers, say, to a shop or anything like that. And courage just comes with time and being able to step up and say exactly what you mean. And if you see something wrong, you can have the courage to say that this is wrong, you need to do it this way.
Thank you. So before you come to the interview, make sure you have a really clear understanding of the midwife's role. Read up about it. Look at websites such as the Royal College of Midwives, the NMC. The NHS careers page has a really good description of the role of the midwife. So read up about the profession. Look at the local trusts. So on the Anglia Ruskin website, it will tell you what trusts we use for our students' placements. Look at them, understand where they are, the way that they're set up. So the trusts are all slightly different. So it's a really good idea to have an understanding, particularly if you are very interested in going to work in one trust or another. Look at NHS publications around midwifery and maternity care. So things like Better Births. Better Births is one of the key drivers for maternity care. So know what Better Births says and the implications of Better Births for women, their families, and for midwives. Look at what's in the latest news. So you may want to look at things around coronavirus and maternity care, but don't just discuss those. Go beyond the headlines, look more deeply, and do look at the university course specific pages. And if you can, come to one of our virtual open days. Catherine, what did you do to prepare yourself for your interview?
To prepare myself for my interview, so I did exactly as Karen was saying. I researched what it really meant to be a midwife. I looked at all the professional bodies like the NMC and the Royal College of Midwives. I also read a lot of the news that was going on at the time, but also did a bit of underground research as well, looking at websites such as the Media's website, which is a midwifery review website of all the various different things going on within midwifery care across the world, not just here in the UK. I also looked at what ARU were looking for in their midwives and what their course would be like and what placements are like as well, just to get a sense of what exactly it would mean to be a midwife and what they wanted to see.
So it's really important that you come to the interview well prepared. Before the interview, we will send you out some information with the stuff that we want you to bring. And one of the really important things is photo ID. Make sure you have it in your hot hand before you start your interview. We will also send you a link to join. So make sure that you have that and test it out. Make sure that it's working for you beforehand. If you need reasonable adjustments, please let admissions know beforehand because we won't be able to change that on the day. And if possible, prepare everything the night before. So due to COVID-19, all of the interviews will be online using Teams. You'll be allocated around a 30-minute time slot for your interview. And as I said, we'll send you the link in advance. Please try and make sure that you are you have a camera and a microphone on your PC and make sure that they are working. So ideally use a laptop or a desktop PC rather than a phone because the phone gives us a very narrow view of you. Try and make sure that you have a good connection, although we do know that from time to time they will drop out. We will ask you for your mobile phone number in advance just in case we are mid-interview and connections drop either at your end or at our end. And make sure that you are in an appropriate place, so a quiet room where you won't get disturbed. So for the interview, there will be, for a midwifery interview, there will be two interviewers. It will either be two midwifery lecturers or a midwifery lecturer and a midwife from practice. And from time to time, there will be a service user with us. So a mum who has had a baby recently. We think it's really important that we involve women who are going to use the service in the selection of midwives for the future. We will ask you some questions. We're going to ask you the inevitable question about why you want to be a midwife and why you've chosen Anglia Ruskin. And then we will give you two scenarios. And those scenarios are there to check out your transferable skills and your application of the 6 Cs. We will be assessing your decision making and your ability as well as your values. It's really important that you understand the questions that we're asking you. So if we ask you a question and you're not certain what we've asked, please do seek clarification. So a mock scenario might be, on your first day of your placement in a new area, you are, so I'm just going to give you some context to this. So maternity services is a secure environment because women and babies are vulnerable. There are locks on all of the doors and only authorised people are allowed in and out. So it's your first day on your new placement area and you are about to go in with your secure ID. We have a tap in which lets us go in, and a young woman comes up to you, and just after you've opened the door, she's very pleasant, pretty nice, and she tells you she's a service user on the ward and wants to come in. What are you going to do? Catherine, what would you do in that situation?
What I would have done, would probably have done when it was my first day, is I would have introduced myself first of all, introduced myself as the student midwife, and hopefully show them to. Hopefully, it would have been told before where they needed to go and that they were, if they were expected, and show them to a room. Depending on what state the woman is in, if she's in labour or just come for an antenatal or postnatal appointment. You also need to consider her state. So is she in pain or anything? Does she need anything? Always ask if she needs anything first. And always ask consent for anything. So if you need to do observations on her first, you would ask her consent at all times.
Thank you. The other important thing to think about in this scenario is this lady really a service user? Might she actually be an imposter? So as Catherine said, you would ask her where she was going and who she was going to see. So that's really important to consider because we don't want somebody, as has been the case in the past, women, people coming onto wards and to try and steal babies. So it is really important that we keep everybody safe and everybody secure. In the scenario that we give you, we will take into consideration your experience. So if you've worked in a hospital before, if it's a hospital-based scenario, if you've worked in a hospital before, we would expect you to provide perhaps a more detailed answer than somebody that may not have worked in a hospital before. Catherine, can you tell me how you felt on the day of your interview?
I was at the start of the day, I was very nervous. I'd not been to Cambridge before, on my own at least, and it was my first time coming in, and you walk into the room and there's about 30 other people vying for a spot on a course that you would really like to go on, so it was quite nerve-wracking. But you soon get comfortable. You get introduced to everybody, and everyone was really nice and really lovely and very friendly, so I had a very good time of it. And then you go, so you have kind of had an intro session of what the course is, what you would be doing or would be expected of you, take a little break, and then you go off into your interviews. And because, of course, at the time it was in person, you worked off in groups, and then you had a multiple scenario interview with various different staff members, which is, of course, nerve-wracking, but as long as you keep a cool head, and listen to what they're saying, you could probably answer it very well. And as long as you're prepared, you'd be absolutely fine. And then we had a tour of the campus, and I realised it was quite a good fit for me. So I left feeling really hopeful, really good about the interview, and of course I ended up getting a place here in ARU.
That's lovely. If you were to give the prospective students some advice about preparing for their interview, what would you tell them?
My first piece of advice would be to read, and don't read what you're expected to read. Don't just read news stories that come up on BBC News, for example. Go deeper than that. Read some books that seem relevant to midwifery, even if it's a birth book, even if it's a birth book that seems to be targeted at women who are giving birth. They have their own uses as well. Read journals and articles. There's a great one, The Practicing Midwife. That is an excellent journal and gives you all the insight into how midwifery education works, how midwifery works in the NHS, all of those things. That's a good place to start. I also want to give advice of know why you want to be a midwife, because that is ultimately the question you will get asked, and you need to have a good answer. I wanted to be a midwife because I had loved women's health education and was a fierce advocate for women's education. And I always was fascinated by the idea of giving birth and how women do it. And being a midwife just fit for me, which has proved even to this day. So it's very good. And my last bit of advice would be prepared, be prepared for any eventuality, and also be professional. Even though your interview is taking place on camera, you still have to be a professional. You still have to look the part, look like you actually are interested in what what they're saying, and try not to do it in bed or in your pajamas. Even if the top half is professional and the bottom half isn't, just to at least show that you show that you're professional and that you know what you're doing.
Absolutely. So completely reiterate what Catherine has said. So on the day of the interview, do smile, come neatly dressed. As Catherine said, even if it is only the top half, have positive body language. Look like you're looking at us. And I know sometimes it's difficult if we've got more than one screen, but look like you're looking at us and have positive body language. Listen actively. And as I said previously, if you're unclear about anything, ask us. We don't mind explaining again. Make sure that you have a question to ask us. We'll always ask you, do you have a question? And so think about a question that's interesting for us and that you'd be interested in the answer. Don't wear your PJs and don't learn your answers, because actually it shows. You might want to take notes, particularly you might want to have a couple of notes about the questions that you might want to ask, because sometimes it's difficult to remember, but don't have a little crib sheet down the side of you with the 6 C's on that you can look at, and we can, because we'll be able to tell. And don't be late. You haven't got to go anywhere. You've only got to turn up on screen on time. So please try and be on time. If, for instance, all your connections have gone down, then try and send us an email, perhaps from a different, by your phone, so that we know why you're not there when we've tried to get hold of you. So after your interview, what happens next is you'll be notified via UCAS of the result of your interview, usually within 3 working days. If you're unsuccessful at the interview, don't be disheartened. Sometimes it takes more than one attempt to get in. I have a colleague, somebody that was one of our students, who is now she's a fantastic midwife, and she took 3 attempts to get in. So it sometimes takes more than once. Work on the feedback that you get after the interview. Perhaps seek a bit more experience, do a bit more reading, but do please try again. We are really happy to accept applicants for the next academic year. You may be offered an alternative course, but if it's really midwifery that you want, stick out for midwifery, because if you accept another course, you won't be able to transfer off of that course onto midwifery at a later date. If you are offered a place, you'll need to accept that offer via UCAS track. You need to think about your accommodation soon, because the accommodation goes quickly. And so you need to get that sorted as soon as you possibly can. Complete your DBS and occupational health information. If you don't do that, there is a risk that you won't be able to go out to practice on time. You need to do those as soon as you possibly can. And notify admissions of any changes in your circumstances. So if you move, you change your email address, because otherwise we won't be able to get in touch with you. And you will be invited to a virtual applicant day either in February or March. Catherine, is there anything else that you would like to add?
No, just to say good luck to everybody applying, and just keep persevering and keep going, and good luck.
Thank you for listening. Good luck, and we hope to see you soon.